Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Class Coordinating Board information session for spring elections. We're so excited to see you all, and we're even more thrilled that you all are excited about joining CCB. I'm Nick Correa, and I'm the senior class co-president along with Ella, who's here. Um, Outside of CCB, I do research on campus, both in the bio department and the public health department, and then I'm also a Brown EMT. I do some theater on campus and acting and singing and all that good stuff. And then I'll let Ella introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Ella and I'm the other senior co-president. So I concentrate in political science. Off CCB, I am involved in Brown Democrats, but I also have worked at like the Brown Center for Students of Color, Career Lab, and I also used to be in Greek Life and Fashion at Brown. So yeah, we're very excited to dive in to what CCB is all about. So what's our mission? CCB's mission is essentially to build community at Brown. And you might be wondering, what does that even mean? Because that's kind of a vague sentiment. That's true, but the way we build community is through campus-wide events as well as class-specific wide events to foster community and build tradition among undergraduates. Nick, do you want to take this slide?
Yeah. So these are some of our values / guiding principles that we try to maintain in all of the events that we plan and everything that we do. The first one is to build a sense of community, as Ella was talking about at Brown, both within the individual classes and then amongst the classes. So there are 4 class boards. So there are events for in individual classes, and there are events that are sort of school-wide. And then we also try to build a sense of community between the current students and the alumni. And then we also try to enrich the Brown student experience by curating, planning, and putting on inclusive and accessible events. So that includes both financially accessible, when we're usually like in a normal semester, physically accessible events, but right now we're on Zoom. So, thinking about font sizes, thinking about presentations, things like that, making sure our games are, accessible to all. And then we also try to sustain traditions that have been around for ages, but also create new traditions, which is extremely timely of what's going on now. So with COVID, we've had to sort of scratch what we usually do and sort of come up with new ideas and new ways of engaging the student body. And so, yeah, this is our 2019 junior board. Okay.
So each board has 6 positions, with the exception of the senior board, which has 7, because there are 2 co-presidents, because of the heavier workload, especially with like playing senior week and senior nights. And so each board has a president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, public relations officer, and community outreach officer. And one of the best parts about CCB is that none of these roles are very like strict, where like it's a very collaborative group of folks. You could be the treasurer, but you could also help like with PR stuff. You could be the vice president but also do other things like contacting vendors. Just it's a great team effort. This is our current 2020 to 2021 sophomore board. Nick, do you want to talk about subcommittees?
Sure. So on CCB, we have 3 subcommittees. So the Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Constitution Elections, and Bonding and Mentorship Committee. And this was really pioneered by and started by our old class co-president, Sonia Sechar, who was amazing in every way. So the Diversity and Inclusion Committee really focuses on promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion within CCB, so internally, but then also externally. So the events that we put on, making sure that we're going through that checklist of, making sure that our events are accessible and inclusive to all. Then the Constitution elections. So they really work on the Constitution and making sure that, we're updating our language, because we on CCB believe that, a Constitution is a living document. So it's always changing. And so, it needs to be updated from time to time. So they do a lot of great work on that. And then they also help to run elections. So they help to run first year elections with us, which is always great. And then the Bonding and Mentorship Committee, they really do the a lot of the bonding and just make sure that everyone in CCB feels included. And for our newer members and for some of you here who are new and might get elected to CCB, might want to, they'll be the committee that sort of sets up like mentorships and things like that to make sure that you all feel welcome and feel like you're a part of a family on CCB.
So this is kind of the basic like process each board goes through when planning their events. So the first step is the ideation phase. So that's basically when you all are brainstorming and thinking, what events does our class actually want? Like, do they want a trivia night? Do they want like a murder mystery night? Do they want something with free food involved? The answer is usually yes to that one. Are you collaborating with other student groups? If you can, like if there's another group that could help you. And aligns with like the idea. Is it accessible? Like in a normal year, if when events are held in person, is the venue physically accessible? And then step two is the strategic planning. So that's when you create your budgets, you reach out to vendors, you get invoices, you develop marketing materials. And then step three is the implementation phase, which is in normal years is it can be staffed by like folks at the student activities office. That's when your event actually happens and you are like, say, working on line control, or if your event has food, like managing the food table, that type of thing. So here are some examples of individual class-wide events that we've done in the past. These are all, of course, events that we've had in regular years, but we will talk about virtual events in a bit. But for example, the class of 2020 did an apple picking event. The class of 2020 also did a Serene on the Green, like a self-care relaxation event. And then the class of 2022 did a game day, but that was really fun with like video games, like capture the flag. It was a great time. Nick, do you want to talk about our CCB wide events?
Yeah, so like I said before, we really, really try to build community within the individual classes Ella just talked about, but then also amongst the 4 classes. So we have our CCB wide events, which are open to all students at Brown. All usually sometimes it's grad students, but sometimes it's just undergraduates. But for example, we have our gala, our annual gala, which is sort of like college prom. You can think about it like that. We usually have upwards of like 1,400 students attend that event. It's held at this really, really nice venue called Roads on the Patuxent. Everyone every year always raves about it and always has a great time. And then we have our Gigs on the Grass, which is another CCB wide event. It's a really big tradition on campus. It's the biggest student music festival on campus. We just had, and Ella will talk about this a little bit more, but we just had our Gigs on the Grass this year, but it was sort of a virtual rendition of that. So it was called Gigs on the Screen. And we had upwards of like, I think upwards of 5,000 people viewed that day. So that was really, really good. But yeah, so that's a little bit about CCB wide events.
So we've been trying to still foster community in this pandemic because, our entire structure revolves around planning in-person events for folks to come to. And so we've been trying to build community and make sure our classes are doing okay in other ways, like promoting different like career, psychological resources. Some boards have done CC bulletins to promote like other really cool student groups and what they're doing. We've also done some asynchronous submission events to try and accommodate for folks that like may not be on campus in different time zones. For example, like the seniors, we did a cookbook event where we just let folks submit like their favorite dessert recipes. And then also I believe it's the juniors did quarantine diaries, kind of like what have folks been up to? Like have folks learned any new skills or I know I baked a lot during quarantine. And then we've also done some virtual synchronous events. Like Nick mentioned, Gigs on the Screen, which is our virtual version of Gigs on the Grass. We had a ton of people watch, tune in, and engage, which was awesome. One of the senior nights was a murder mystery night where we like hired an outside company and we did it on Zoom and there was like costumes and makeup and like accents and just like real into character. It was real fun. The juniors have done like trivia nights and game nights with like Among Us and Scribble.io. So we've been still trying to have really fun virtual events that people want to stay on Zoom for just a little longer for. And Nick can talk about the elections timeline.
Yeah, so this is the elections portion of the presentation. So first, let's just go through general elections timeline, important dates to keep in mind, and things to remember. So this Tuesday and today, is the elections information session. All of you have met your first requirement to run for a position on CCB. You're only required to attend one of these. Again, there are no more, so I guess this is the last one, but you're always welcome to reach out to us with any questions or anything like that after this info session about CCB or anything like that. Or if there's anything that we didn't cover in detail, you can always reach out about that as well. And then this Friday, tomorrow at 9 a.m. to Tuesday, March 16th at 5 p.m. will be the campaign materials approval period. So Ella and I are the election co-chairs this semester for spring elections. So you'll send all your materials to classboard@brown.edu. Don't worry if you didn't get that email right now. It's in a later slide, so you can definitely write it down later. But all the materials must be received by March 16th at 5 p.m. That's an important deadline because nothing will be accepted past that deadline. And so you can't post anything that's not been approved by Ella or me on whatever social media platform you can think of. And then Wednesday, March 17th at 9 a.m. to Friday, March 26th at 5 p.m. will be campaigning period. So you can, post your posters online, start your Facebook groups, open your Instagram pages, things like that. And then Tuesday, March 23rd at 12 p.m. to Friday, March 26th at 11:59 p.m. polls will remain open for voting. So that's when we'll send the poll and the survey to the sophomores and the juniors for voting. And then on Saturday, March 27th, very exciting, we will announce our new senior and junior boards for next year.
Amazing. There we go. Okay, so here are a couple of our campaign requirements, but also just to reiterate, or I don't know if Nick mentioned this, he might have, but you don't have to have any event planning experience. That's totally fine if not. We've had like many CCB folks join who like this was their first like real like event planning thing, and they've done amazingly well. So don't feel stressed out about that. We also require candidate statements, no more than 350 words, and it has to include a photo of yourself. And if you could please like email those to us in PDF format, that would be very helpful. And then, oh, I don't know why it stopped sharing.
It didn't. It's good.
Oh, it didn't? Oh, that's weird. It stopped on my screen. Wait, sorry about that. Nick, can you pause it for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can also, just please email all of those materials to us, whether they're links to like Facebook events, Facebook groups. If you are having like a campaign like Zoom meeting, like make sure you send that to us as well. These are two examples of candidate statements. There's not like a strict format for these. These are just like models and examples. The only requirements are that it just doesn't go over 350 words and that there is a photo of you.
Okay, so this is a little bit about campaign materials. I know we've said that a bunch thus far in this video, and this presentation, you probably are like, what are those? So each candidate is allowed 50 publicity points, and we'll talk a little about publicity points in the next slide. And the hope of this point system is to ensure that elections are equitable to all. And then, so there are no transfer of points amongst candidates, with that being said. So, if I was running for VP and Ella was running for treasurer, and I've used all of my 50 points on Zoom invites, on Facebook groups, my posters, my Instagram page, and Ella's only used 2 points, right? I can't go to Ella and say, hey, can I have 48 of your points? We don't allow that on CCB. And then election co-chairs will be monitoring campaign materials / online platforms. So if you're doing a Facebook event or anything on Facebook, you would friend Ella and invite her to your groups / invites. And then if you're doing anything on Instagram, you'll follow me and I'll be monitoring Instagram. And we reserve the right to take down or disqualify the candidate should unapproved or unsubmitted items be posted. So make sure that all of your materials are sent by that March 16th, 5 p.m. deadline. We won't accept anything past that, okay? And that means even if you're thinking about posting something, let's say you have 5 pictures that you want to post on Instagram, even if you don't post all of them, it's always good to just send them to us so we can approve them before that deadline. And then as to not create an unfair advantage to those that are studying on campus for the spring, we're not allowing physical posters this election cycle. And again, this is new to CCB. No, candidates are not permitted to spend money on their campaigns. Not that in the past people have spent like, exorbitant amounts of money on things, but just like, Canva, like sometimes they get like the Canva subscriptions. There's a free one, so you don't even have to download that. You don't even have to get that if you could, but we're not allowing candidates to spend any money on their campaigns. And then CCB finally is always committed to being inclusive of all Brown students. That's really, really important to us on CCB. So you can reach out at any time should you have any accommodations or special requests surrounding elections / campaigning. You can email those to classboard@brown.edu. And if you don't feel comfortable reaching out to us, you can also reach out to our SAO advisor, Anna_Barraza@brown.edu.
So this is just a breakdown of the publicity points, and like don't worry if you don't like jot down all of these, they are in our election handbook. And Nick, if you want to send the link to that in the chat, that would be great. But so these are just like the point values for like a Facebook group, which is 5 points. Posting your campaign statement is 1 point, but then it can be shared as many times for like no other points. Like personally messaging someone doesn't count, doesn't use up publicity points, but like if you make a YouTube video, it's 12 points. Again, like just to stress, you don't have to like use all 50. That's totally fine. If not, like don't feel pressure to do that, but you can if you want to.
Yeah, and I'll just add that to that, like Ella and I have tried our best to make this list as comprehensive as possible. With that being said, you all are Brown students and are very creative in the way you campaign and just like and ideas that you come up with. So if there's something that you come up with that's not on that list, feel free to email us and we can figure out how many points that is and work with you to figure something out. Okay, so that concludes our presentation. Again, Ella and I are so happy that you all are here, and Ella and I have served in many of these roles that we talked about, but we're always happy to connect you with current people, with people on the boards currently that are serving in a role that you potentially want to run for. So definitely reach out. We can tap into those resources. Or if you have any questions about life at Brown, anything like that, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. So I'm going to stop the recording because I just want to open the floor to questions, and I'll do that right now.